Welcome back to The Herd. Joy Taylor in for Colin Cowherd. It's been quite the week. Woo! We're running out of words to describe what's going on around here. Colin will be back on Monday. Alex Curry has been with me all week. And now we have Matt Leinart in studio, which is very exciting. Welcome, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
It's good to see you guys.
Fox Sports college football analyst. Matt and the Big Noon crew will be on the road all season long, starting with Penn State at Purdue, September 1st on Fox, and Big Noon kickoff live in Austin.
Ooh, that'll be fun.
Alabama, Texas on September 10th on Fox. Yeah, I might have to ask
Sneak
for,
out.
Let's
sneak out.
We'll get you
maybe
out
ask
there.
for a little
Let's go.
pass or something.
Yeah,
You
do
know,
we
I do
know a
some
guy?
social media stuff.
Yeah, do we know a guy?
Do some TikToks or something.
You
Can you put in a good word for me, Matt? All right. Well, USC, that's your spot, and they are headed to the Big Ten. What was your initial reaction to this news? Because this is massive.
It's still like trying to process them being a part of the Big Ten here in a couple of years. I was shocked of the initial announcement. I can't say that I'm surprised that it happened. I think when you look at, the current landscape of college football, where it's going, Oklahoma and Texas really being that first domino last year to say, hey, we're going to the SEC for their obvious reasons. USC being a massive national brand still, despite kind of the lack of competitiveness on the field. It just was a no-brainer. So shocked, just the initial kind of shock reaction, but not surprised that they made this move that will greatly benefit them and UCLA.
How does this affect college football moving forward? Because obviously anytime there's a massive change like this, everyone freaks out. Right. But what does it really mean for college football?
Well, I mean, I think we're going towards, it feels like a pro model, right, with two mega conferences. You have the SEC, which is brought in Oklahoma and Texas. Now you have the Big Ten, which is bringing in USC and UCLA. And, the whole landscape is shifting. You talk about, okay, what happens to the Pac-12? The Big 12 was able to, bring in some new membership last year, to kind of survive. But the overall landscape, that is shifting. I think NIL is another thing, the transfer portal. There's so many different issues right now that you just said it, like it happens, like, oh my God, everyone's freaking out. What's going to happen? It's all going to settle down at some point. It is the new norm. And I think we have to get used to that, for better, for worse. And yeah, but it's, it's kind of like you either have to be a part of the future, you sink or you swim. And some teams are going to sink and some teams are going to jump off and try and survive,
Well, I don't like to consider myself an elitist, but I do like well-run things. Mm-hmm. Everything doesn't have to be big, but I do think it needs to be well-run. And when you look at the landscape of college football, and I do also like to point out that, the NIL and this move doesn't just affect college football. It doesn't even just affect men's sports. Like, there are thousands of student athletes that this all of these changes affect. Yep. We usually and rightfully so, talk about football because it's the biggest revenue generator. But when you make these sweeping changes, you have to understand how many people this affects. That said, I'm very pro NIL. We were both college athletes, me and Alex. I had brothers who were college athletes, lots of friends who were college athletes. You were a college athlete. And part of the reasons why these sweeping changes happen are because you let things get so bad. Like, you can't have students wondering where their next meal is coming from. Right. This is nonsense. So you allow these things to come downhill and don't change anything, and then it becomes the state that it is now. But where are you on NIL?
I'm fully supportive. I work for Hall of Goats is an NIL company, an NFT platform that I work for, a couple others, and I'm all for it. And I think, as you said, it's giving an opportunity not for just men, but for women's sports, all sports to make money. Now, not everyone's going to make the same amount of money that we're seeing some of these football players make, or even some of these basketball players make, but the opportunity is there. And I think with a move like USC and UCLA, what they're doing for their student athletes, and again, I'm speaking for those two schools, it's only going to enhance those opportunities. Playing in the Big Ten, playing, teams like Ohio State, Michigan, those schools coming out to the West Coast and the LA market, the exposure for both sides, for the Big Ten and for USC and UCLA, is great. But NIL in general, I'm all for it. It's so funny. I'm been a part of a lot of conversations, a lot of with marketing agents, with parents, and I walk away with some of these conversations. I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is wild. Like, is this really what's great for amateur athletes and high school athletes, that the amount of money that's getting thrown their way? But it's the new norm, and it's happening, and it should happen. And I think the market will set itself for the next couple of years.
Yeah.
And, the money that's being thrown out, no one really knows. Like, they're just doing this because at this point, it's like, hey, we want these players to come to our school. And they're doing it that way. But I'm all for NIL. I think the opportunities are endless if you do it the right way. And it's here to stay. So we have to get used to it.
Well, not all change is good change. Not all change is perfect, but change is inevitable. It is the one guarantee in life, and everyone, doesn't handle it the same way. But my point earlier, I think people who see things coming around the corner often separate themselves very quickly. And this move with UCLA and USC is smart for all those reasons that you mentioned, most namely being exposure. I think when we talk about NIL and the direction that college sports is heading, the words that we use are very important. Like, people talk about kids and buying players and paying players. And I'm like, okay, but they're adults. They're 18-year-olds. So they're adults, young adults. Could I have done it? All open for conversation. But regardless, they're 18-year-olds, they're adults, right? That's what we're legally saying. 2, no one's being purchased, right? This is not an exchange for a human body. There's no one who's being purchased. These are legitimate contracts that you could do if you were a TikTok star, that you're doing if you're an athlete. And no one is paying players from the actual school. So I think the words that are being thrown around here are very confusing for people when you talk about the reaction to what's actually happening. And that, I think, is also swaying the conversation and making it much more difficult to find solutions.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's like collectives, and there's obviously there's all of these things being thrown out. And again, for so many years, everyone was saying players should get paid and this and that, and and now all of a sudden it's here. Now everyone's like, no, we shouldn't. We get like it just like it went from 0 to 180 like in a day. So the policies are changing every single day. The rules are changing every single day. And that's fine, because at some point we're going to kind of level itself out, and we'll have a plan. But like to your point, and to the point of where I think college football is headed, it's going to become the NFL in a sense, where like you have these two conferences. Transfer portal is free agency. It literally is free agency right now with NIL. Will there be a players union at some point? Will they unionize the college athletes? Maybe, which is probably what you're talking about too. And then the governance. There's no governance right now, so all of those things are down the line. It's going to happen in the next 3 to 5 years probably. But yeah, there's a lot of confusion on the NIL front. There's a lot of you can't pay for play, you can't buy players, but there's a lot of people out there trying to figure out loopholes and trying to figure out ways to get players and it's gonna. I've been in enough of these conversations where it's all gonna kind of iron itself out, and it'll make everybody happy. But right now, man, like the Wild Wild West is the term that's being thrown out. It is legitimately the Wild Wild West. It is.
Well, to your point about like it balancing out, this is why I can't get outraged about a whole lot. There's enough real world stuff to be outraged about. Right. I'm not gonna freak out about a young person being paid $9 million. By the way, it's not your young person. It's not your kid who's been sitting around eating chips all day. These are the best athletes at their age in the world at what they do. There's a reason why they're being paid this money.
By the way, I will say this, and I was told this in the NFL as a professional, but coaches, everyone, and now the other, make the money while you can. Go and make as much money as you can. We all know that. That's simple business, but especially in sports, especially in football, where you're 98% of these players aren't going to make the NFL. I don't care if you're a 5-star coming out of high school.
Right.
Go make the money that you can, because you are not guaranteed that. And that's in anything, but especially sports. So I don't have a problem with the amount of money. Like, it is what it is. Like at some point, like, you have to be realistic about expectations about the money that you can earn as a player, and whether that's a female basketball player or a male tennis player, it doesn't matter. But like, go get it. Like, I'm not mad at you. Go get it.
I'm not paying you. Yeah. It's not changing my life. And for that matter, Alex and I have talked about this a lot when it comes to college sports. Is like, you're supposed to be getting an education, right? You're supposed to be advancing your life. You're in college to advance your opportunities for success in life. So maybe you give them, I don't know, a financial education. I didn't have one. I didn't know about real estate. I don't know about stock market. I didn't know how to open a bank account. So like these are opportunities to teach young people about financial literacy at a much younger age with real money, not monopoly money that you talk about in a class.
And there's high schools that are doing that because in the state of California, it's legal, to make money off your NIL. There's a lot of states that still haven't passed that policy, and they will. So in my mind, that is like the most important thing, because I've been in conversations where people have no clue how to even use a credit card.
Right.
Like I didn't know how to use a credit card when I was 17.
No.
Or they don't know how to form an LLC or any of these things. So the financial literacy courses, which I know high schools are starting to do that, especially in this state, colleges are starting to do that. Like when I was in the NFL, we had someone come to training camp to talk about financial education. And that was it. It wasn't a course. You're grown men and you're professional and you have your job and whatever, but like they need to institute that because one, kids will get taken advantage of if they don't naturally. And two, they'll spend all their money because they don't know what to do with it. So it's a great point. And I think institutions and high schools, they're starting to understand like we need to start teaching that.
We've got Matt Leinart in studio with us. So some fun stuff. What are you expecting from USC this year?
I expect them to be really good. Like, honestly, I spent a lot of time there with spring, went to the spring game, obviously close with Lincoln and the staff. And look, he's done a great job. He got obviously great transfers. Caleb Williams was huge. Jordan Addison was huge. He's got some key guys on the defensive side of the ball to just kind of, it reminds me a lot of what Mel Tucker did last year. And even Chip Kelly at UCLA, you got to build through the transfer portal when you take over a roster that listen, they didn't have a strong roster. And he's done that so far. I think I hate putting wins on a thing, but I definitely think they will be good enough to compete for a Pac-12 championship. There's no doubt. And listen, you win a conference, you have a chance to maybe make the college football playoff. There's a couple, Utah will be tough, Notre Dame will be tough, but you look at the schedule, there's a lot of wins that they should have on that schedule.
Do you have a surprise school that could make a run at the title this year? I know it's early.
Surprise school. Look, I think Ohio State's not a surprise school,
yeah.
But like Bama and Ohio State to me are just the top two again. I think Texas A&M has a shot. They had a great year last year, but Jimbo's done an unbelievable job there. I think USC has a shot to get to a playoff, which would be, I think, a surprise. But it's so early. It's so early to tell. I just can't wait, man. We're like 2 months away. I mean, this has been like the wildest. I think I tweeted I don't remember obviously the move yesterday, Saban and Jimbo Fisher having a beef online, which was awesome, like a genuine beef.
So good.
Like that beef goes like a long way. There's a lot of history there, personal. Just NIL obviously has been huge. It's exciting,
It really feels like there's no downtime in sports anymore.
There isn't.
It's just like the NFL offseason was insane. The NBA offseason has been crazy. Kevin Durant wants to trade now.
I know.
The signings have been nuts. It's
and this is like the time. This is the time. I think we all as sports fans. Once the NBA finals are over and hockey obviously just finishing. I think is hockey still going on?
No, that's
just one.
Yeah.
This is like that dead period before football, fantasy football, all those things, But yeah, with NBA free agency, this stuff, it is just nonstop, which is great.
It is. We love it. Well, we're very excited for the college football season. Again, Matt and the Big Noon crew will be on road all season long. Penn State, Purdue, September 1st on Fox, and from Austin, live from Austin. Bama, Texas, September 10th on Fox. Thanks so much for joining us, Matt. It's great to have you in studio.
Good to see you guys. You too.
Enjoy your holiday weekend, and let's get to Alex Curry with the news.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.